Yes, students, as we are reading our lesson number 6, the machine stops. In the previous part of the lesson, we just studied how the world has changed because of machine. All the world has revolutionized. The writer is giving his ideas how would be the world after a particular of period of time, how the people would depend on machines, how they stay at their homes, they would like isolation, they would do all their activities through machines, and they just lost all the human emotions and human feeling, and they would lose the happy bonding between the human being. So half lesson we studied yesterday, so today we will start the next part of the lesson. We were there, here we were studying that there are two characters in the story. One is the boy Kuno and one is the woman, her name is Vashti. The boy is expressing his deep desire to see his mother physically. He wants to see her, but the mother is so occupied by a machine that she even don't want to waste a single minute. She don't want to visit her son. Even she is agree to give him only 5 minutes on phone. So we see here in that line we were reading the lesson. The boy asks his mother, to come to visit him, but she says that the airship barely takes 2 days to fly between me and you. I dislike airships. Why? The boy is asking why you dislike airship. I dislike seeing the horrible brown earth and the sea and the stars when it is dark. I get no ideas in the airship. So look here how the people have lost the habit of just visiting the earth. They even don't like to visit the earth. They just habitual of staying at their residence, and they even don't want to see the stars, the seas and the brown earth. So what's the reply of the boy? I don't get them anywhere else. It's the reply of boy about the ideas. What kind of ideas can the air give you? He paused for an instant. The mother is asking about his ideas. The boy has some ideas in his mind, some creative ideas. Actually, he has the emotions, so he is saying that, do you not know four big stars that form an oblong and three stars close together in the middle of the oblong, and hanging from these stars three other stars? This is the shape like the rectangle oblong. He is discussing his idea about the stars. He has many ideas about the stars, and he is sharing with his mother, and his mother doesn't have any type of such ideas. Actually, her imagination relating to nature, it's just zero, because he is totally involved in machine, having no thoughts for nature, having no ideas for nature. So mother is saying, no, I dislike the stars. But did they give you an idea? How interesting, tell me. I had an idea that they were like a man. I don't understand. The four big stars are the man's shoulder and his knees. The three stars in the middle are like the belts that man wore once, and the three stars hanging are like a sword. The boy is discussing about his ideas. So what the mother is saying, she is not so much impressed, but she just thinking that men carried swords about with them to kill animals and other men. Actually, this symbolizes also of the present age, that after such the revolutions, man has invented so much dangerous things also, and they even become the source of killing the other human being and other animals are, because of the pollution and all other activities, human activities has become dangerous for the animal and the people also. So this symbolize that activities. It doesn't strike me as a very good idea, but it's certainly original. When did it come to you first? In the airship. He broke off, and she fancied that he looked sad. So when the boy is discussing his idea with his mother realized at that moment the boy is quite sad at the moment. She could not be sure, for the machine did not transmit nonsense of expression. It's mean that through the machine you cannot realize the emotion, you cannot feel the emotions of the others. It just show you the picture, but emotions cannot be transmitted through the machine. It only gave a general idea of the people, an idea that was good enough for all the practical purpose. So if the person is living a practical life having no emotions, so he can depend on machine, but machine cannot give you all the emotions, cannot transmit the emotion of the other people. Vashti thought the finer details of the expression was good and rightly ignored by the machine, just as the finer detail of the grape was ignored by the manufacturer of artificial fruit. So just like a person who is making some artificial fruit, he cannot capture all the delicate details of that fruit. In the same way, machine can transmit all the talks, all the ideas and all the physical appearance, but it cannot transmit the emotion of the people towards the other person. Something good enough had long since been accepted by our race, but this reality is accepted by the people. They don't feel the others feelings, and they don't need the feelings or such type of the feelings of love or missing some other person or such, all that feeling they all become machine with machines. The truth is, he continued, that I want to see these stars again. There are curious stars. I want to see them not from the airship but from the surface of the earth, as our ancestors thousand years ago. I want to visit the surface of the earth. She was shocked again. Why she was shocked? She was shocked on the desire of his son, that he wants to see the earth by himself physically. He don't want to see it through the machines, and he don't want to see it from the airships. Mother, you must come, if only to explain to me what is the harm of visiting the surface of the earth. So when the mother was not agreeing, the boy is asking, what's the danger in visiting the earth? The mother is replying, no harm, she replied, controlling herself, but no advantage. The surface of the earth is only dust and mud. No life remains on it, and you would need a respirator, or the cold of the outer air would kill you. One dies immediately in the outer air. This also symbolizes the fact of the earth today, that man's activity have made it so polluted that it becomes dangerous for the living things. I know, of course, I shall take all the precautions, and besides, well, she considered and chose her words with care. Her son had an odd personality, and she wished to dissuade him. She wanted to stop him from the expedition. She didn't want him to go on the earth to visit us physically, because she felt that it was dangerous to stay there. Do you mean by that contrary to the machine? Sorry, it is contrary to the spirit of the age. She asserted. She want to tell her boy that it is against the spirit of the age. Now the people do not do like that activities. They don't visit the earth. So what's the reply of the boy? He said, do you mean by that contrary to the machine? It's mean that it is all the against the activities of machine, and I am doing something against your machine in a sense. But his image in the blue plate faded. It's mean that he becomes sad on the reply of his mother, and he just isolated himself. He just disconnected from the call. He just asked his boy Kuno. He had isolated himself for a moment. Vashti felt lonely, then she generated by the light and the sight of her. She felt sad for a little moment on the left of his boy, but again within few seconds she just again occupied by the activities that he was busy first with her machine. He just switched on the light. His room, flooded with the radiance and studded with the electric buttons, revived her, and there were buttons and switches everywhere. buttons to call for food, for music, for clothing. There was the hot bath button, by pressure of which a basin of imitation marble rose out of the floor, filled with the brim with an warm deodorized liquid. There was the cold bath button. There was the button that produced literature, and there were, of course, the buttons by which she communicated with her friends. The room, though it contained nothing, was in touch with all that she cared for in the world. So this is the description of all what is there in the room. Apparently the room is empty. There is only one armchair and one table, but it is filled with the buttons. There were buttons for each and every order. There was button to bring out the bathtub. There was button to fill that bathtub with the cold or the warm water. There were button to bring the food. There were button for every and instant need. There were buttons to just operate, and every wish can be fulfilled. Just like we can say that such facilities, in some of these facilities we have with us in our homes, and some we will get within next few years. So in the next paragraph, Vashti's next move was to turn off the isolation switch, and all the accumulations of the last 3 minutes burst upon her. So when she just switched off her isolated button that she just switched on when she started to talk to her son, it just took 3 minutes. And after 3 minutes, when she switched on again her buttons, he just connected with the other word, outer word, and there were a lot of messages for her. The room was filled with the noise of the bells and speaking tubes. What was the new food like? Would she recommend it? Has she had any ideas lately? Might one tell her one's own ideas? Would she make an engagement to visit the public nurseries at an early date, say this day, month? So these are the types of the messages that appeared on her screen, and she had to reply to all that messages because all the activities were done on the machine. To most of these questions she replied with irritation because she was not happy at that moment, and she did not want to talk to anyone. A growing quality in that accelerated age. She said that the new food was horrible. She just replying all the messages, that she could not visit the public nurseries through the press of the engagement, that she had no idea for her own but had just been told one, and that 4 stars and 3 in the middle were like a man. She was just sharing the idea of her son. She doubted there was much in it. She thought that there was much in that idea, but she was not sure about it. Then she switched off her correspondence, for it was the time to deliver her lecture on Australian music. Now she switched off all her talks to all the people, and there was a time for her lecture. The clumsy system of public gathering had been long since abandoned. Now it's a long time that the people have stopped to meet each other physically. Every activity would be done now on the machine, through the machine. Neither Vashti nor the audience stirred from their rooms. Everybody is sitting in their room, seated in the armchair. She spoke while they in their armchair had heard her fairly well and saw her fairly well. Her lecture, which lasted 10 minutes, was well received, and at its conclusion, she and many of her audience listened to a lecture on the sea. So first she delivered her lecture on music, and there was no need to go in any meeting room. There were no people in that meeting room. She was sitting in her room, and all the audience were also sitting in their rooms, and they were just receiving the lecture on their mobiles. Just nowadays we also do online teaching, and we do also receive all our lectures on the mobile phone. In the same way, the people also received their lectures on their phone, and there were no physical meeting. And at its conclusion, she and many of her audience listened to a lecture on the sea. And after finishing her lecture, there was another lecture that relating to the sea. There were ideas to be got from the sea. The speaker had donned a respirator and visited it lately. Then she fed, talked to many friends, had a bath, and talked again, and summoned her bed. So after listening that lecture that were relating to sea, because a person who had delivered that lecture, he himself visited the sea, and after listening that lecture, she just took her food, just took a bath, and talked to some friends, and then she called her bed. As we know that there were no bed in the room, she just switched such he said, just press the button and the bed appear in the room. The bed was not to her liking, it was too large, and she had a feeling for the small bed. Complaint was useless, for beds were of the same dimension all over the world, and to have had an alternative size would have involved vast alterations in the machine. So when the bed appeared in the room, it is told that she didn't like the bed. She just wanted to change the size, but she could not, because it was a long procedure to change the size of bed. So it's also mean that in the machine age, man's all desires even could not fulfilled. There would be something that are against his desire. So Vashti also could not change her bed, and she had to just use that bed instead of her disliking. Vashti isolated herself at that moment, and it was necessary, for neither day nor night existed under the ground. As there was just, she felt the need to sleep, so she isolated herself, as there were no appearance of the day and no appearance of the night, as they were living underground or just enclosed in their cells. Even nowadays, if we see that in our flats, if the curtains are fallen on the windows, we cannot see is outer side is the day or the night. We just sleep, we just get up without having the feeling of those people who were in the past. They were sleeping in their courtyards, on their roofs, and they can enjoy the nature. But now the people don't have such facilities, and even they don't feel any need for that. And at that moment, when she go to bed, she just reviewed all that had happened since she had summoned the bed last. Ideas, scarcely any. Events was Kuno's invitation. An event. Should she take an airship and visit him? So while sleeping, she was thinking about his son, about her son, about his invitation, and she just thought, would she visit to her son? So it's not a complete story what happened at the end. For that we had to read the complete novel. It's ending of the lesson now. Hope you understand what's the uses of machine nowadays and what are their effects. Hope it had good effect on you, and it improve your thoughts.